Are ministers allowed to say badass?
Women have always been powerful. History just edited them badly. This is Female Badassery, a podcast about extraordinary, ordinary women.
Hi, Jill. It's nice to meet you.
Hello, Tracy. Good to meet you.
This is the first time you've seen Jill in a bit.
30 years.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
This very moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're captured. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I feel so honored. I'll just sit here.
I've been following Jill. We're friends on Facebook. And in school, we were in band together. We had a lot of different classes together.
Yes, we
but
did.
we never really hung out.
No, I was aware of that. We were in, they kind of track us in the school system we had. So we were in the smart kids group. So we had the same classes together.
I've been watching Jill on Facebook. And she's doing all these really cool things, and I really admire them. I'm in Germany and watching all the stuff happening in the States, and it's really, it's a lot. I tried to think about what would make me feel better, and I just thought, let's start talking to cool women. I'm an introvert. I have no idea why I felt like talking to a bunch of cool ladies, but all I know is that it's a really good distraction. And I've already learned so much stuff about people that I thought I knew. We've got a very interesting palette of people, so to speak.
I look forward to hearing it. Yeah.
We're excited.
Thank you. Okay.
So you're a pastor. I know nothing about you because neither would our viewers. Yes.
Okay. Because I realized, Sarah, you never told me. So I honestly am coming in kind of like, I don't know what we're talking about.
We're talking about why you're a badass.
I've been watching you from afar.
Are ministers allowed to say badass, or should we call you bad buddy?
No.
I thought, come on, let's take a moment to appreciate that joke. Bad buddy.
Oh, bad buddy. See, I talked over you and I missed your joke.
It's okay.
That's an awesome joke.
I always make sure that my joke gets a highlight, so don't worry about it. Okay, I'm sorry. So you were saying that this minister is allowed to say badass. Okay.
Bill and I come from West Michigan, which is, I don't think, Russell, that's not a Dutch last name, is it?
Oh, no, I'm not Dutch.
Okay. But you ended up in Holland, Michigan.
I did.
Holland, Michigan is a place?
It is. Yeah, it was settled by Dutch people.
Yeah, my mother's family, they're all Dutch.
The folk who settled Michigan, I was separatists. It was Dutch separatists who were not pleased with what was happening in the Dutch church, so they came and
here we are
settled this part of the country.
Maybe you didn't go to college with my cousins, who I don't know either. I think that's maybe why we didn't hang out with Jill, because Jill, I think, came from a loving, stable family.
What? Nice to meet you.
I know.
It's like meeting a unicorn.
I know she had a brother who they seemed to like each other.
Oh.
I know. They were both talented musicians. I watched Jill through Facebook, and she's gone to college. She's had these two beautiful babies. Sounds very stalkerish. But I watched you. You went on a retreat. Was it on the Isle of Skye, or it was near Skye?
It was the Iona.
Iona, up in the Hebrides. And I watched some messages that you've had to your congregation. And if I understand correctly, you've switched congregations a few times. But everything that you post, at least, has just a solid warmth. It's I feel like you're very generous of spirit. So at least that's the impression.
So yeah. Jill, what brand of minister are you? What is your ministry?
So I am ordained in the Reformed Church in America.
Okay.
Which is from the Dutch Reformed Church.
Okay.
And I have been ordained for 30 years.
My goodness.
I went through college in 3 years at Calvin College, so
that was going to be
Christian Reformed Church,
okay,
yeah,
which is even more conservative. I come from a very conservative background, and then went on to Princeton Seminary, which is Presbyterian, Princeton Theological Seminary out in New Jersey, and was ordained at 24. So I was 24 years old.
Serious chops, Jill.
Well, Yeah,
This is
well,
not like, the University of Woo-Woo people. This is
oh,
legitimate
yeah,
stuff. This
well,
is good. It's impressive.
yeah, so I've been doing ministry since I was 24 and I'm now 55, and I'm actually making a transition at this time into the United Church of Christ,
Okay.
which is
And what's
they have
behind that?
the
What's
what's
behind that?
behind that? Oh, that's a story. I came up in this denomination because it's the one I was born into, and I've loved serving within this congregation. I've always been a person who's kind of bloom where you're planted. Like, this is my place, and I came to appreciate a lot about this tradition, um, and have happily served within it. To be honest, from the get go, it's been a challenge. At the age of 24, I barely got ordained
Ah,
because um, I, chose to speak my mind.
mhm.
In my ordination exam experience to the gatekeepers, they did not love what they heard.
See, I sensed that in the badassery. I sensed it.
Okay. So speaking your
So,
minds for 30.
yeah, been doing that. Yeah, and so, that sense of wanting always to be a truth teller, always to be willing to be as authentic as possible, but to still work within the system has been a
Mhm.
sense of my call all that 30 years that I've been in the Reformed Church. I've been on the most progressive edge of that denomination and tradition. And I came out as queer right after seminary, I'd say, in my first pastorate. I spent about 4 years as a settled pastor in New Jersey. And, I've been working at that advocacy work within the denomination that I was called into, since then, since the middle 90s. And this is not an open and affirming denomination. There are open and
What was
affirming
the
churches, but
experience of that? And I was surprised to hear you say that because Sarah mentioned a husband and you have children.
yeah,
So what was
yep,
that journey?
yeah. So that journey is that, at the time, um, I found myself in love with a woman, and so the journey. It was middle 90s. I came out as lesbian at the time.
Hmm.
I then discovered, that I'm really bisexual. I had
Yeah,
dated
boys are cute too.
boys in high school and college, so I ended up marrying a man, because that's who I fell in love with in the relationship that I wanted to commit my
Yeah,
life to. But I'm queer. When I was 20, in my 20s, my first pastorate, I didn't know exactly how to do
sure.
that. There were some people at that church who knew and some who didn't. And as it turned out, I ultimately wanted to move into a different kind of work. So I was starting a private practice in something called rebirthing,
Hmm.
which
I'm
was,
familiar with that.
are you, so
Yeah.
this was very not
I don't
West
know what
Michigan.
rebirthing.
You don't know
Oh,
what it
that's
is?
right. Yeah, tell
Yeah.
tell tell
No.
our viewers.
Yeah, so rebirthing is so here's how I described it to my conservative church people. I would say, since you know what this is, Tracy, you'll laugh. I would say that it was a form of breath work and meditation, kind of combined
Okay.
with spiritual direction. That's what I would tell them. But what it really is it came out of Northern California in the 1970s. And it really
Yeah,
is kind
man.
of, yeah, man, it was really, it be qualify as kind of like new age sort of
Very much so.
practices. Yeah. But it's really fascinating to see now as people are doing a whole lot of like embodied trauma work and all the advances in neuroscience and so on. There is so much that was happening in the rebirthing world intuitively that they've found so much evidence for, because
Okay.
it was using breath work as a
It
way.
rewires your neurology
Yeah,
to
exactly.
help you recover from trauma
Mhm.
that you experienced during the birth experience and then
Right.
subsequent to it.
Yep. And then the kind of
Fascinating.
patterns that the birth script kind of set in life and so on. So I was doing that kind of work on the side. It was always like a side
Yeah,
gig.
yeah.
And I started to do what was called interim work, which is when you work in congregations that are in transition
Mhm.
or dealing with conflict or in some other way. And so that was really what I did up until the time I moved back to Michigan in
Okay.
2008. And I mean, I've just always been interested in kind of helping. people explore what's really going on.
Yeah.
That's always been the drive for me, is asking the hard questions,
That
really
Tracy
trying to.
does that too. She's all
Is
hard
that right?
questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then that evolved into you feeling constrained in your current system.
Yeah. I learned I have ADHD at 53.
I
Okay.
realized I have it when my children got diagnosed.
Well,
And I was
exactly.
like,
That was part of it too.
right.
Yes,
So like
exactly.
basically, yeah, you're looking at your kids going, no, that's normal. I did that.
Hmm. Yep. So
Oops.
all of that is to say, I got in storytelling mode and lost track of the question. This time that I was serving in the Reformed Church, I could use my gifts. I always found places where people let me be me, but I also found that there were always these constraints. There were just always these constraints, these ways in which I had to fit inside of this system that it's just really not me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think the feeling of freedom that comes from moving into the United Church of Christ, which is just a much more open
Is it?
kind of system. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it just
Google
feels
this.
like this fabulous
I'm not as
opportunity.
familiar with that denomination, so I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear, and I'm glad that we're exposing that to
Mm,
some of our viewers who
yeah.
may be feeling the same constriction as you, which is, look,
Yeah.
I want to stay in the Christian framework,
Right.
but
Yep.
I'm not comfortable with certain elements of my existing system.
The United Church of
Oh.
Christ has all these different strands that came together in the 1950s, is when 1957 is
Oh,
when they formed. But like the Congregationalists, going all the
yeah.
way back to the founding of the nation are a part of it. Yeah, there's several strands that all come together.
What's the process of ordination? Do you have to get reordained to go back to school, or can you just like
No.
apply for a transfer?
Yeah, so thankfully, actually, I was at one of our denominational meetings when this vote happened. And we have what's called a formula of agreement
Oh,
between my denomination, the Presbyterian USA, the Evangelical Lutherans, and the United Church of Christ. I was
oh.
at the General Synod of the RCA when this got voted on back in 1997, I think it was. And I remember the big holdup where we almost didn't
Was
pass
you
this
guys?
formula.
Was you guys?
Well, no, we weren't sure we could let the UCC in
That's what I
because
meant by you
they
guys.
were okay.
That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yeah,
meant. The
yeah.
new guys, those guys.
The new guys, yeah,
They were
because
not good
they
with
were
it.
okay with gay people. They were okay with gay people, and that was like, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm actually serving in a UCC church right now. I'm still ordaining the RCA. You can do that without anything, but as if I want to relinquish my RCA credentials, become fully, UCC, there's a process.
But
It's
what's
funny.
crazy is here you are, you're able to be bisexual in our world, but you can't
Yeah,
hold two different ordinations, two different credentials in opposite religions. You're like,
no,
no,
it's
you
so
have to pick.
fascinating.
Which one are you?
Well, I don't actually have to. They'd let me be both. I'm choosing. I'm
Okay.
choosing. So
So
yeah,
now what does this look like for you? What's your vision? I mean, you're younger than me. I'm about ready to be 60.
okay.
And so I've got, if we all live out the normal lifespan of the
Yeah,
adult female, we've lived to be about 90. So you've got
yeah,
about 30 good years left. So
yeah,
what is your vision for what you want to do, if
yeah.
anything, if you have one?
I'll be honest. I came to a crisis point about 2.5 years ago. I would describe it in this way. Throughout all of this 30 years of ministry, I have felt this kind of tension of living inside, it's just inside of me, but also inside of a system like this, but it was mostly inside of me, where I've wanted to do this kind of work of helping people look at the shadow side of
Yeah,
themselves and of their communities or their institutions and not be afraid of being honest about those shadow sides and how we need to integrate that part of
sure,
ourselves.
sure.
Um, so I've learned the work of restorative circles, for instance. I'm always trying to learn new things like I did with the rebirthing way back in the day. But the thing that always kind of held me back was that I also wanted to be the good girl. I was, the evangelical Christian in public school. You know what I mean? I was both kind of trying to always do the right thing because justice is incredibly important to me, but I also still wanted everyone to like me.
So, but when you were talking about wanting to be a good girl, what does that represent as a 55-year-old woman? How does a 55-year-old woman
Yeah.
demonstrate that?
So the way that this showed up throughout the entirety of my life and ministry was always kind of wanting to be seen as the most competent person in a room, wanting to be seen as the warm and loving, compassionate person, while also, but while also asking the hard question, while also leaning into conflict and being curious about it. And to do that to do both of those things required this incredible juggling and, like,
It's a finesse of the dissonance between wanting to, as a coach, I get this.
yeah,
You wanna be challenging enough to get the person to think, but not
yeah,
so challenging that either A, they shut down, or B,
right,
they get angry with you or dislike
right,
you, and they project the discomfort of your questioning or your process to them,
right.
onto you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's just so much kind of posturing and persona
Yeah.
that was always there for me. I didn't even know I was doing it,
Sure.
like,
Because you're Gen X. It's what we do. We're born doing it.
yeah, yeah. But it all
High
came to a
school's
head.
awful. And yeah, life is awful.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so 2.5 years ago, I just crashed,
And what did that look like? Well, how did that happen?
Well, I had just gone through a very, very long season of just kind of crisis trauma,
Yeah, people
and I
dying
just kept
and all that stuff that
taking
happens.
taking things
COVID,
on.
menopause.
Two
Mhm.
parents with dementia, took them into
Aw,
my home, was trying to take care of them at home,
Whoa.
pastoring
yeah.
a large church at that time,
So
kids,
just
with
like breaking.
challenges, floods at our house. I mean, it was insanity, a
Sounds
cancer
like
That's
scare.
too much.
a
Yeah,
biblical level of crisis is what I'm
yeah,
hearing.
yep.
Did you have locusts by
So,
any chance?
yeah, there was some locust. No.
Plagues,
So,
right?
yeah, I
Plague,
had,
flood.
just a total breakdown. It looked like a breakdown. It felt like a breakdown. But as it turned out, it was a breaking open,
Yes,
really,
yes,
is what it was.
yeah.
And it led to an abrupt departure from my church. Just like
You're like,
abruptly had to leave.
I'm out of here. Okay. So
Yeah.
that takes a lot of courage.
Oh, it was so painful because it was a
Sure.
place I loved so deeply. They loved me so deeply. Um, it was so painful and it was
It's like a
terrifying.
divorce. It
Oh,
really
yeah.
is. Yeah.
So hard, but I had to. I mean,
Yeah.
I had hit the bottom and I needed to do work. And I finally had to come to terms with the fact that I needed Al Anon, frankly. I had so over functioning and so much the language in Al Anon is fix, manage, and control. I had so much impulse toward fix, manage, and control that needed attention. Yeah. So I gave myself a gap year. I went through college in 3 years, went straight to seminary. I've
There
been
you
working
go.
for 30 years.
Good. So you finally got your break.
I got my break and I did some really deep healing work. And so you asked, I remembered your question. What does it look like for me? And what it looks like for me is moving into a denomination that I can breathe in. And it looks like returning to my first love of interim ministry. And it looks like serving as an interim pastor in a part time capacity.
Okay.
And it looks like starting my own business, Restorative Connections, which is a place where I offer coaching. I just went through in my gap year the International Coaching Federation
Oh,
training.
ICF. Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, ICF.
Yeah.
So coaching and where I can give more focus and attention to the restorative circle work that I've been doing for the last
That's
15 years.
wonderful. I was
And
a
then
founding
consulting.
member of ICF back in the day. That's how
You
long I've been a
were.
coach. Yes.
My gosh, Traci, that's
So
amazing.
that was like 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I was there, I was an executive coach and stuff, but I was there at the birth of personal coaching when therapy,
Wow.
when it branched off from therapy. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
see.
that's awesome.
It's a super credible, wonderful certification.
Oh,
Congratulations
yeah.
on making
Yeah,
it.
it's
Now, did
great.
you specialize in your certification in any specific way?
So I'm actually at the end of that process. I've been through the training, but
Okay.
I've got to get my little videos of coaching
Yes.
approved and take my test. So I'm not
Excellent.
certified yet. I'm trained.
You're there,
So
though. You're there.
I'm
That's
getting there.
excellent. Congratulations in advance.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, lots of
How
changes.
exciting. I
Yeah.
mean, it takes a lot of courage to completely reinvent your life. What sort of familial support did you have with your children and your partner and your
Hmm.
friends and family?
For this transition.
Yes.
Yeah, unbelievable support. I mean, yeah, just incredible support from folks.
How
But it
good.
was hard. I mean, it was really, really hard.
Yeah. It's
I wasn't
scary.
well,
It's
you
scary.
know?
I may have mentioned it in this series before, but there's a book that I read in grad school called The Structure of Scientific Revolution. And
Mm,
it's about scientific revolution, but
yeah.
nature of it, I was assigned it in grad school. I did not go to a science degree. My graduate degree
Yeah.
is in organizational psychology.
Okay.
And we studied it because it really very well outlines the nature of change. And what
Oh,
you're
sure.
describing so perfectly describes how change actually happens in
Mm,
science, in lives, on an atomic level,
yeah.
on a spiritual level, on a scientific level, which is you've got this paradigm and you're living it and it's fine, it's your status quo. And yeah, there's some things that don't quite fit, but you're able to kind
Hmm.
of manage it. But then
Yeah.
over time, the more anomalies come and you start feeling more constrained. You're like, this really isn't
Yeah.
working. But the thing
Hmm.
is change doesn't happen like in a linear way. It's not like
No.
I'm going to change now. And then you just calmly open the door and walk out. No, chaos happens. Everything
Yep.
implodes. The existing paradigm, the existing status quo
Yeah.
blows up in your face, and you curl
Yep.
up in a little ball and you go, I can't take that, which, by the way, is what I believe is going on systemically in our society right
Oh,
now. It's
100%.
absolute chaos.
Yeah.
But
You're talking about America or are you talking about Jill?
I'm
Yeah.
talking about all of
No,
it. That's the
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
There's no separation. What happens systemically happens
Right.
individually. And
Yep.
so the key, which you have lived through, is to hang
Yep.
on until the chaos and the dust settles. And then you
Yeah.
get up and you go, okay, now what's
Hmm.
left? And then you
Yep.
rebuild from there. And you figure
Yep.
out what structure you need to create to
Hmm.
support the new status quo and the new
Yeah.
knowledge and learning and insight that you gained through the breaking apart of the former and then the chaos. And then what
Yeah.
emerges is then
Yep.
and then it happens again. And that's why we have transitions at every period of time in our life as in adult development,
Yeah.
is because we go through life stages and we have these
Hmm.
paradigms and then they don't fit anymore. And
Yep.
the biggest tragedy that I see, and I know you do too, is people who are not brave enough to take action when everything, and so they try to go rebuild that same paradigm, and it doesn't.
Right.
You can't
It's
ever go back to the
familiar.
box. You can't go
Yeah,
back to the
absolutely.
box.
Nope.
So,
Well, and that's part of what, I know, there have been writers in Christian thinking that have been calling out for some time that the church is in one of those 500-year cataclysmic kind of
yes,
transitions. And part of what I think is, I mean, frankly, it's not a little bit, it's a lot of my desire to shift because the tradition that I've been a part of was key in the Reformation. It's a Calvinist tradition. The Reformation was all about the word. It was all about, it was about Jesus was the part of the Trinity that was central to it. It was about the word, and there's all this formulation of doctrine and all of that kind of thing that was so crucial to
mhm,
that transition. And it's not my sense. The sense of folk who've been doing this kind of thinking and so on is that this next one is going to be more, I think, Trinitarian spirit led,
yeah,
and it's going to be about not about all of the systematic ways of thinking and belief is doctrine and so on. And part of what I've found is that I was looking into rebirthing, like this new agey thing back in the day, and I've done interfaith work, and I love to learn from any place that I can discover it. And I don't want to be in a place where I'm constantly having to kind of tack back to ordination vows that have me needing to defend what I'm doing in response to creeds from the 16. This new tradition that I'm going to, they have statements of faith and so on, but they describe them as testimonies of faith, not tests of faith.
Ooh,
And
I love
so
that.
I do too. And I am eager for being in a space where we're in an adaptation kind of mode, where we're in a learning kind
Yeah.
of mode, where we're not afraid of things falling apart.
It's
I mean,
a
this
new
is the,
Reformation, really.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, because what you were describing of orientation, disorientation, reorientation, I mean, that
Yeah,
really is the work
truly
that,
is. And it's scary to
yeah.
be in the middle of it when you
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know the system. That's why I'm
Yeah.
less freaked out by what's going on than most people because I mean, I get emotionally attached as well,
Of
but I'm
course.
intellectually aware at least that this is simply part of the change process and that you cannot get change without this. Things have to fall apart in order to create new systems. It's just the way of change.
Yeah.
Sarah has some fun questions for you.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
we'll go to the lightning round. I have not contributed much to this talk. I'm just listening and learning. It's very interesting because I grew up in a very religious household, but I am not. And I think
Mm.
a lot of that is, well, I know a lot of the conflict in my family is
Religious based.
religious based and performative Christianity versus what I understand, what I think should be, but I have not studied.
It's encouraging to hear you talk,
It's
Jill.
very encouraging. Yeah, it's very
Thank you.
encouraging that it's not just,
Dogma.
Mm-mm.
yeah. And I'm the invisible sheep of the family. I've
Oh,
decided
yeah.
I'll stay that
Yeah.
way.
It's about making the world a connected, loving place where people can flourish. That's what it's about.
I hope so. I'm just having so much fun having these conversations.
Seems to be the theme of all of the interviews that we've had so far,
Yeah,
which is connection and community
yeah,
are the drivers.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
No
mean,
matter what
that's what it's
flavor it
about.
looks like, that's the
Yeah.
recipe.
Yep.
Yeah, we've got a priestess we're talking to. I've got
Nice.
indigenous speakers, heathens like me. We'll see. Okay, so
Right.
now the really important
Okay.
around it sounds
Ready.
bad. The lightning round. So let me get my questions. Cats or dogs, Jill? Cats or dogs?
That's for dogs.
We have a dog. That is not the answer to the
No, it
question.
is not. I was going to say, wow.
No, we love Cleo, but I've always been a cat person, and
It's not, I'm not
it's
surprised.
allergy.
Listen, this is your whole life. You were a cat person, but you got a dog. Okay.
Yeah,
No.
allergies in our house.
You also have
Allergies in
a
our house,
husband
and we
too that
love
you love
Cleo. I love
dearly. Yes.
Cleo. Yeah.
Okay.
What is something you care less about each year?
My appearance. I told you I freaked out for a minute when I found out I was going to be on screen, but I really didn't care that much. I just didn't know.
You're so adorable.
You're super cute. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Something you care more about every year.
Mm. Hmm.
I think based on our conversation, you're caring more about you and what you really need.
Yeah, for sure. I'm figuring out that I needed to be more honest about what I need. Yeah. And I also am caring more about being playful. I am serious as a heart attack most all of the time.
I have so
And
much trouble imagining that.
I know because I'm doing a better job.
Okay, you
Doing
really
a better
are, because
job.
I just met you, and that's serious as
Yeah.
a heart attack. Not what I would have said.
Yeah.
You were
No, I
serious
really
in school. We
I
were
was
in the
serious. Yeah.
smart kids classes and
Yes,
we
we're,
behaved
we're
ourselves.
we behaved ourselves exactly. So I'm not looking to start any trouble, but I just want to be more playful, more fun.
I think I might be looking for trouble, but we'll get into that later.
That's a different interview.
Is there something that you're allowing yourself that you weren't before?
Allowing myself to not try to make everyone be impressed by me, or yeah, I'm just not propping it up anymore. And so
Love
yeah.
that.
Hmm. My little
Yeah.
ADHD brain is, I used to, in order, like I said, I didn't know, but one of the ways that I got it, and now know it's like they use masking language, I would just prep like for
Yeah.
hours and hours and hours to make sure
That
that
you knew your stuff. Yeah.
I knew my stuff and wouldn't lose track of things. And yeah, so I don't do that anymore.
I'm interviewing for various jobs at the moment. So I'm in a transition phase, and I am starting to wonder if I have ADHD and if that might be why I'm not getting a job. Because I do tend to
No.
have all kinds of interests, and that's scary for some people,
Yeah.
especially in
Absolutely.
Germany where you're supposed to just,
Yeah, you're one thing. Yeah.
there's a path.
Yes.
When you're 14, you decide what you want to do for the rest of your life. And then you go to
Right.
the school to learn that, and then forever.
Yeah.
I digress. I'm getting so much, and
Yes.
is that the ping ping?
Well, that's what female ADHD is often about, is the synapses going like this all the time.
I on my computer right now have about
Okay.
20 open tabs.
Yes, please and thank you.
I closed all of my 20 tabs by mistake earlier today.
No, then you gotta go find them again.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. It was not supposed to happen. Okay. Hey, are you a Blanche, a Dorothy, a Rose, or a Sophia?
Hard.
It is.
I'm not seeing Blanche just because
Yeah,
you're a good girl,
I am a good girl. So
but maybe we should be more Blanche.
I know, I think that would be good.
No.
So I
T-shirts
absolutely love the
made.
Golden Girls, but I'm having a little bit trouble. So Blanche was the you gotta help me a little bit.
Yeah,
with the
Blanche
sexy
was the
one.
hotsy. Yeah, she was the
Yeah,
hotsy.
okay. So that's what I figured. And Rose was
She
stupid.
was not. She
Yeah.
was naive. She was the
Naive.
Yeah. And Dorothy was the older one.
She was the leader. Actually, no, Dorothy was the tall one who was the leader.
Okay,
then,
sadly Dorothy.
Sophia's the oldest one.
Yeah, no, I was Dorothy. I'm Dorothy.
That's what I would have picked.
Yeah.
Simply, and that's not I don't know why you're saying it with a sad face.
I'm saying it that way because that's where some of my like fixed manage control stuff shows
But
up.
she was funny. She was
Yeah.
fiercely protective. All
That's
right.
Fiercely protective.
She really was.
Yeah.
And she was the person who would get something done.
Yeah.
You know, so when they all got arrested and then what's her face? Sophia ended up going to the concert with, I don't know, Engelbert Humperdinck or whoever it was.
Right.
Like she was the one that managed to like get the police over and get the
Right.
guard,
Yeah, we get shit done, you know, those of us who are like,
and always had the best. She had the best lines. She had the best lines.
That's true. Okay, I was Dorothy, and I'm not proud of it.
No, you should be. You should be. She was a wonderful character. All right, excellent. Well, now for the viewers, how would you, if you would want them to find you? How would we find you?
So they can find me at restorativeconnections.org.
I want to thank you very much for your time today. This has been delightful.
Absolutely.
As I said, I just met you 43 minutes ago, and you are a wonderful human being, and I'm looking forward to a long and prosperous relationship with you.
Well, thank you, Traci. It was great to meet you, and so wonderful to see you again, Sarah. I hope that we'll stay connected.
I just feel so honored to have been part of this reunion.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you guys, and for the viewers, tune in next week.